If you want to learn backend development using Spring Boot, the best way to start is by building real APIs. So in this video, we're gonna be creating from scratch Todo REST API using Spring Boot. You will learn how to connect to database, how to create endpoints, and how to test everything using Postman as well. You can have the basic kind of structure for you to get started with more features such as authentication. This is like a starting point for you. So if that's interesting for you, feel free to continue with me. I'm going to be starting here with building my project. I'm going to be using Spring Initializer. Spring Initializer is a website to help you get started faster. So it generates for you like the source code or the project structure for your project, which is Spring. So this is kind of the settings that I have chosen. From left side, Java as a programming language and Maven as dependency management tool. And the version for Spring Boot, I'm going to be using 4.05. You can choose whatever available there. I'm going to keep everything simple. I will not modify. For the dependency, for the right side, Lombok, because it provides us with annotation. I'm going to be using also H2 in-memory database, which is going to be helpful for us because we wouldn't have this hassle to set up an external database. If you want me to have another separated video with a Postgres database, for example, feel free to comment down and I will be making one. I'm also going to be using Spring Data GPA because I want to communicate with the database. So Spring Data GPA will be providing the necessary classes and tools for us. And I'm also going to be using Spring Boot Web, of course, because it has everything we need regarding the RESTful APIs for this video. So once you have generated the file, by the way, you generate the file like this. You generate it and you have some kind of zip file, extract it, and you just get like a project structure such as this file. What happens next is when you're working with a backend project, usually in most cases, I find it almost similar across different frameworks, not even just Spring, like .NET, for example, Python, you name it, like Django, like you name it. You are using somehow n-tier architecture. N-tier is basically presentation layer, business data. That's basically the idea of n-tier, where every layer has some kind of work that it does. So this is a simple graph that or diagram that I have created, which is basically the presentation layer communicate with the business layer. The business layer does some logic, and the logic happens when you have some data and you get the data from the data layer. Basically, if you want the data, you're going to be accessing the data layer. The data layer should communicate with the database in order to retrieve whatever was requested. So this is a flow. Presentation layer communicate with business layer communicate with the data layer communicate with the database communicate back to whoever requested, and whoever requested in our case is going to be the data layer. Then it goes back until it reaches to the presentation layer through this kind of flow of requests. This was theoretically speaking. What is actually happening here? So we have a controller. This controller is basically our endpoint. And this endpoint communicates with our service, and the service is responsible for handling any kind of business logic that we're going to be needing. For example, if we're going to be throwing exception, if we're going to handle a specific case, if we're going to be actually getting the data, it just make everything regarding the business logic. And in order to make this kind of business logic, it needs to get the data, and it gets it from the repository. The repository is responsible for requesting the necessary data from the database. That's basically the flow of actions that we going to be needing. I'm not going to be walking you through writing every single line of code. I've already generated everything. Okay, so now we have the controller APIs. This is a controller, by the way. The REST controller annotation pass for this endpoint. So everything under this controller, almost everything, is going to be under this path. This is a request mapping. Also, I'm going to be using request arc constructor because in a Spring framework or Spring Boot, we have something called dependency injection. And in dependency injection, we need to create the fields, or the basically not field, like anything that we need, like the beans. Yeah, we need to create the beans, and Spring provides us by default using constructor injection. So we need, when we create required our constructor, it creates our object through Spring framework. So we have also get mapping, which is basically getting everything. By the way, we don't really put any path here. This means it's going to take the root one, the root path, which is basically in our case API/todo. For get mapping, we extend it like a specific ID. This is the ID that we're going to be using. And for the post mapping, we're just going to be getting a request body, which is basically the content of the body that we're going to be sending, and we're going to be watching it in the demo in the Postman. And yeah, so that's basically what's gonna be happening. I have also put and patch, and the differences between put and patch. Put updates object as a whole. It doesn't really modify specific element. You can have it modifying a specific field or property, but patch is made specifically for this cause. Like for this one example, we are marking complete, and I'm gonna be walking you through what's gonna be happening. But let's not rush things now. So we have put, we have patch, and we have also delete. Our main 5 methods, HTTP methods that are built on top of TCP connection. So those are the methods that are mostly used. Also 2 other methods, which is options and head, and those one of them, which is options, is just making its usage mostly related to cross origin request source, I believe, where you make sure that you're the person who's actually requesting the data. Then you get the allowed methods. So basically, if you're allowed to use get, if you're allowed to use post, if you're allowed to use put, if you're allowed to use patch, whatever you're allowed to, this is what you're gonna get as a response. And I believe head also includes the headers as well. Like it provides you with the headers and doesn't give you basically the methods that we have. And what happens here, I'm gonna be taking this get method as an example. We're gonna be returning a response entity. This response entity can have multiple types. So for example, we can have okay, we can have also no content, we can have not found. It can have almost the status code that gets returned. So usually we're using response entity.ok, and we let the business logic handles whatever happens. So we're using in our to-do service, which is just one service. But I don't really want to jump to the to-do service just yet, because I want to show you what's the entities that we have. We have a very simple entity. We have an ID, which is unique identifier. That's basically it. We have a title and description, which are just strings, and we have also completed, which is a boolean, like is a to-do completed or not. Now we're back to the controller. We're talking about the first phase we have, the presentation layer, the controller. So what happens now, we request the data that we need or whatever we need through business logic. The business logic happened in the service, which in our case to-do service. So now I'm in the to-do service. So we have almost the same required ARD constructor, which was provided in the controller flow, due to the fact that we wanted dependency injection, because to-do service required to-do repository. So we want the to-do repository to be created and provided to us. This is why we're using required args constructor. And we need to annotate it in to-do service in order to be known in the to-do controller, because to-do controller has a to-do service. So basically we need it as well. So we need to let Spring Framework know, hey, this is our service that we're going to be using. So now we're going to be creating a to-do, which is pretty simple. We're setting the ID as null because it's already auto-generated. So basically we don't really need to care about the specific ID, and we're just going to be saving it in our to-do repository. So before jumping into the repository here, what happens? The to-do repository is a clean one. It's empty. It does nothing. Like seriously, it's literally empty. It doesn't really do anything. We didn't really even annotate it with something. We just extended GPA repository. But if you had checked GPA repository, we have found that it is already annotated with no repository bean. Like itself, it has some kind of annotation. But usually people like to make it like this one. Put it like repository this way because we want it just to be annotated. We want to know it. But GPA repository provides us with whatever we need from default perspective. Like we can save, we can find by element, we can find all, we can find by ID. You can have several kind of methods that you can use provided to you by default using the GPA repository. So this is basically what happens. So in the post method, we're going to be using create to do, which is basically just saving. When we're getting all the to-dos, we're using the repository to find all. And if we're trying to get a specific to-do, we're going to get find by ID, which is also provided by GPA itself. And we're going to be checking is empty, you return null, or maybe we can throw an exception. That's a business logic that I'm going to be talking about. This is happening in to-do service. For the updating, we're finding the to-do, and then we're setting the title with what's provided to us in our requested body, which happens here because we're going to be requesting body here. And we're eventually updating the existing to-do with the updated to-do and eventually saving it. That's for the update. For the delete, getting the element, and now we're going to be deleting it. Mark complete, which happens only in the patch. And why it happens in the patch? Due to the fact that patch only modify portion, a small portion, a field. It doesn't really replace the whole object. This is the point. So this is why we are marking it as a completed, but I'm just using it as a reverse action. So we have a set completed, I'm reversing what's already existing. And eventually I'm saving it in our database. Saving here updates due to the fact that we have already found the element before. So basically it kind of updates the element, but the fact that we need to use it as a patch because it gives us a clearer cause. Like, the reason we use patch is we're modifying a small bit within the field, not the whole object as a whole. So that's basically what happens. This is the flow that's happening. Presentation, which is controller, communicate with service communicate with the repository, and repository, by the way, you will find out, hey, we didn't really write anything within the repository because GPA provides everything to us, and it handles the connection with the database. But where is the database? We hadn't really mentioned anything regarding the database system so far. This database is not included. So what happens here, in the application YAML, we have some kind of data source. What is the URL? If it has username or password, this is included here. And this is the drivers. This is an H2 in-memory database like we have mentioned. It can be replaced with other drivers such as MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, whatever driver you're using. That's the username, and this is a password. And this is the GPA Hibernate. This is if you want to create the tables, like for example, if you're using an actual persistent database such as Postgres, you can have multiple types where you can create the database. You can update it in case the entity was updated, so you can update the tables that correlate to that entity. And show SQL is just showing the SQL statements that was printed in the logs, such as like this one. So yeah, that's basically what's happening for the H2. This is configurations that are related to the H2 in-memory database. We're saying, hey, it's enabled, and this is just some kind of pause. It is the console that's responsible for viewing the data, and we're gonna find out now. So now this is the configuration related to the database we have, and now we can run the project and check our demo. So I'm gonna be checking it, the localhost, like localhost 8080/h2 also. And let's see, does it really work? Yeah, this is the database that was already asked. And let's just connect it. It is using secured the URL. Connect. Yeah, this is the URL in our database. And now we have the to-dos. And since we have already launched this one, great. So now let's try our demo and see what happens. So I want to get like select all, I want run. We don't find any rows. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be posting a to-do. This is the request body that we have, and this is the URL, this post. And by the way, since we didn't really modify any of our ports in application.yaml, it uses the default 8080. So now if we try to insert here right now, you will find the ID is 1 was inserted. And if we try to rerun this project, we'll find the ID now is here. So now if we try to get all the to-dos, we'll find this one here. If we actually retrieve the specific ID of one, if we try to get all to-dos, we should find an array of this one. And now we want to update it. So let's update it like this one. I'm updating this description and I'm making it false. Or actually, I'm gonna keep it false as it is right now. So yeah, now I'm updating. Now if I try to rerun again, you will find out this description is updated. For the patch one, which makes it completed. So what happens here is it's gonna be converted to true. When I rerun here, it will be a true. That's basically what happened. Now, eventually I want to delete the entities that I have created, which is to do. And when I run it, I will find it, hey, it's gonna empty. And by the way, we have returned it to 04 here because in our controller here, in to do, we have created no content, which is basically returning 204, which is basically no content. No, and not actually okay, as most all other replies were returning okay. And actually for created, we're using the created state, I believe it's 201. I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 201, but let's try actually one more. Yeah, it's 201. Yeah, it's 201 create. And yeah, that's basically the idea here. And the last two methods that we have is head and options. If we try to use head here, you will find out, hey, you have some headers. Those are the headers that you want. And if you want to know the the allowed methods that you have, we're gonna be using the options here, and it gives you, hey, those are the allowed methods that you use. And that's basically the differences between the option and the head. Yeah, that's basically it. And the options gives you, like, if when for the cross origin validation stuff from the client side, such as front end. Yeah, that's basically what happens here. Hopefully you enjoyed the content so far. If you would like me to extend this kind of videos into more complex stuff, feel free to inform me. If you have any question, feel free to ask. And also, if you're very interested into databases or unit testing, watch this or this one. I'm not sure which one will be there, but see you next time. Bye bye.